Hello everybody. Today will be a little bit different. As of right now, I'll be the only one on here, so if anybody has any questions, that is what this time is for. I will kind of just touch on some stuff that we've been dealing with. We've obviously been throttled super hard on Instagram. That's been a pretty big deal with our kind of content and interaction, how we're dealing with our followers at this point. Pretty big annoyance. But what are you going to do? There's nothing you can do. You just got to roll with the punches. So give me a second here to get everything set up, make sure that we're good to go on all of our platforms. And then in the meantime, if you have any questions at all, go ahead and drop them. I'm going to do my best to keep up. I'm trying to find all of the platforms that we are on here, and we'll get going. And if there are no questions, then I'll probably cut this one kind of short, unless one of my cohorts decides to join up with me. So I think it is important for everyone to get a hold of us, get on our email list, because moving forward, this is going to be probably the best way to stay in touch with us. We put out a monthly newsletter, and we try to really keep up with people and post updates through the emails. So if the social media goes dark, as it's probably going to at some point, at this point, really, every day that we get to spend on social media is a blessing, and not to be taken for granted. So that's how I feel anyway. So definitely go to our bio link tree, check out all of our links. On each one of those, you can sign up, or the first two, the Private Trust Masterclass and the Private Trust Explained link, you will be able to sign up, and when you put in your email, you'll automatically start getting our newsletter each month. So that's going to be one of the best things that you can do if you want to stay in touch with us. Maybe you're just learning about this stuff a little bit and you want to learn a little bit more before you move forward, but it shouldn't be a surprise if at some point we just up and disappear from social media. So the real Matt Klein asks, is running a 1099 job through a trust dependent on the employer, and to what extent? So this is how I got into using my trust. I was doing concrete foundation work, and it's a case-by-case basis, really. It's going to depend on how the HR department or whoever handles the employment agreement contracts, the W-2s and the W-4s and the W-9 forms that you fill out. Some of them are going to see the word trust and they're going to think, oh, this is something I've never seen before, and they're going to say, no, I don't want to do it. But for the most part, and in my case, I was able to leverage my experience and my position at the company that I was working with. And yeah, I just filled out a W-9 form through my trust, used the trust EIN number, and from there it was no problem at all. So dependent on the employer, I'm not really exactly sure what you mean when you say that, but yeah, it is dependent on them to accept the terms. Not everybody is going to be in a position where they can switch from an employee to an independent contractor, because it's not a superfluous thing. It's not like a trivial word game. When you're an employee, it implies that you are subject to their rules and regulations. You use their equipment. You don't determine your own schedule. You have way less control over the terms of your employment agreement, whereas if you're an independent contractor, there's even, I believe the IRS has a test of how they apply whether you're an employee or not. You can fill out a W-9, and if you're still behaving in the exact same way as an employee, they'll treat you as an employee, as if that independent contracting agreement doesn't exist. So I hope that answers your question. It's, for the most part, it's a very straightforward and simple process, just filling out a new W-9 form and plugging in the EIN number for your trust, and pretty easy from that point forward. Y'all One Incorporated, most people love helping one another out. I agree. Matt Klein says, okay, sweet. To add on, what options of the employer won't agree to the trust option? Well, so if the employer is not going to let you switch from an independent contractor or to an independent contractor, which could happen, especially if you're dealing with a bigger business or a corporate job, then you can use your W-2 wages and donate up to 60% of that to a trust and get 60% of that tax liability taken care of that way. Okay, sweet. To add on, what options of the employer won't agree? What options if the employer won't agree? Yeah, I think that answers the question. So you basically just start donating money to your trust and using that as a tax write-off. So that's a way to get rid of 60% of your tax liability. And I just closed out my thing here, so I lost a couple in the chat. I think Y'all Want Inc. said something else, something positive. Thanks for putting this information out, and yeah, thank you for watching it. 3 years ago, there would have been almost nobody who would listen to us, or it was a very fringe thing that only kooky conspiracy / sovereignty people would even entertain any of this stuff. And thankfully, the powers that be have flown way off of the handle and really inspired a lot of people to start asking questions and entertaining alternatives that maybe they otherwise wouldn't have. So in a way, we are really grateful that things have spiraled out to the degree that they have, because people are finally waking up and deciding that the way that they were taught to do things isn't necessarily in their favor. So yeah, it's been a really interesting and rewarding process seeing that happening. And of course, don't want to see the world get terrible, but I think on a fundamental level, it needs to get kind of screwed up in order for us to start asking questions. If we're all comfortable, there's no reason to change anything. So Tara Louise, good to see you. Will assignment of wages and indebtedness to the trust negate tax liability in a W-2 job? Assignment of wages and indebtedness to the trust negate tax liability in a W-2 job. I'm not entirely sure what you mean by that. I don't know how you would get indebted to the trust. Assignment of wages is, I don't think that there's a better workaround currently than to just do the 60% write-off as your max contribution to a charitable service. I'm not entirely sure how to answer that question. Maybe Javier or Daniel would be a better one to ask that question. But as far as I know, the 60% write-off is going to be your best option. Y'all Want Inc. Powers that were. Oh yeah, I'm on board with that. And yeah, these are all kind of conventions of speech that we use. Personally, I really don't see any other human being above me as having authority or anything like that. Just kind of for all intents and purposes, there is some sort of power structure that has a grip on most of the world. Booty Naked 24/7. Howdy booty. Hope you're well. Tara Louise, the template for assignment of wages can include a debt owed to the trust. Yeah. Again, I'm not entirely too sure about that, how that would work. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank on that, honestly. You'd have to send us an email and see if maybe Daniel or Javier has a better answer for you there. Yeah, I'm not sure how how owing the debt to the trust would change any sort of tax liability, but yeah, the username is a little, I try to keep things as PG as possible, so but it's all right. I could just call you 24/7 from now on. That'll be the easiest way, I think. Okay, sorry, I was trying to learn. Yeah, no problem. Glad to have you here, Tara. It's always great to see you. quickly become one of our favorite clients. So let me check on the other platforms. I've been paying a lot of attention to Instagram, but make sure I'm not missing out on anybody's other questions. We do use a platform called Restream, where it says that we have people's comments will pop up directly in the app here, and I have 4 different platforms, Telegram included, that we are streaming on. So you'll have to bear with me if I'm not getting to all of your questions right away. How should one first go about establishing one of these trusts? Well, you could do 10 years of research. You could scour the web and maybe become friends with a lawyer who would give you a template of what an irrevocable trust is or how it should look. You could become very learned in all of the various facets of writing a legal document such as a trust, and then give it your best shot at creating a declaration of trust and getting an EIN number. The way that we do it is we offer a template for an irrevocable trust that we have, that we know works, that is extremely advantageous for the trustee to use and is capable of doing all the things that we talk about. And so the shortest way for me to answer that is to work with us, put in an application, and get on a call with us and figure out what level of our service is good for you. We have our online course, and we have the Inner Circle Discord group, and we have one-on-one consulting. So you can't go wrong with one-on-one consulting. It's in a couple of hours on a call, just one-on-one like this, we can get anybody up to speed. I mean, almost nobody that we work with has any real experience dealing with trusts, and we haven't so far ran into anybody who, after 3 hours of consultation with us, total 3 separate calls, has not been able to completely implement everything that they need to with their trust, and really fully utilize everything that they desire to. So and then there is the online course, which teaches you all the background in the law. We also have it built into the course where you can put in for your declaration to get your name and your address and the name of the trust and all that stuff put into the document and sent to you by email. So if you get course access, you can get as many trusts as you'd like for the rest of your life. And the Inner Circle, we do live question and answers like this twice a month with members only in the Inner Circle for the Discord group. And again, that's like, a huge value, because the course is good as a standalone, especially if you're like really passionate about learning this stuff. You're going to go through that and you're going to pick up what you need to pick up. But if you're not really, it takes a certain personality type to really just dive into like legal information and start consuming and applying the knowledge. So I always recommend at least getting some of the Inner Circle Discord access, because in 20 minutes of asking us a question and getting an answer, we can clear up 100 hours worth of pondering and questioning and uncertainty. So that's going to be your best route of action. Let's see here. Tara says, I'm exchanging all my automobiles to the trust for equitable interest. Should I carry auto insurance in my name as trustee, or in the name of the trust perhaps? In my case, I put my pickup truck in my trust, and I have a couple of other vehicles, but I haven't put those into the trust just because they are technically a liability. Even if you keep them, well maintained, a wheel could fly off and, hit some old lady or whatever. It's technically a liability because it's, it's out there and it could cause damage, which would then obviously, if it's registered to the trust, it would bring it back to that. And if there's a controversy and the insurance didn't cover it, playing the game of like super conservative, super like protected, shielded layers, you may not want to use the vehicles inside of the trust. But if you are going to, in my case, the pickup truck, I didn't have to do anything with the insurance. I didn't even have to notify the insurance company. Being that I'm the trustee and I'm the one also driving the truck, there's no issue there whatsoever. Your insurance can stay just the same as it is, and that shouldn't be an issue. 24/7. Thanks for answering. No problem. And Tara says, anyone wanting to set up a trust, fully recommend Frontier Capital Trust in their online platform. It's elementary and mashes things super easy. Love that. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And honestly, like I touch on this a lot, that people hearing from somebody they know their successes and what they've actually done with these trusts is it's going to do way more than thousands of hours of content that we could put out on social media. There's just a certain it's a deeply ingrained program. The only thing certain in life is death and taxes. It's so deeply embedded into our brain at such an early age that you start hearing about things like what we're talking about, like, hey, if you do business through a trust, you don't even have to report to the IRS. Hey, if you have an investment account set up through a trust, it doesn't incur capital gains taxes. People's programming just glitches out and they don't know what to make of it, and they just and frankly, I don't blame them for thinking it's a scam, because how many people out there are pushing nonsense, and there's a lot of movements out there that are endless trails of paperwork, needlessly complex systems, and 10, 20, 30 steps to get questionable possible results for something. We're not into that. So I don't blame people for having questions, but yeah, testimonials, people's reviews, people's affiliate referrals, stuff like that is by far the greatest help to spreading the word about this stuff and helping people get into it. Looks like on YouTube, got a couple of questions. What Big Bongo, what's your opinion on the FTO left side up merger with Yup and subsequent 1 to 5,000 Bionic stock split? I do not have an opinion on that whatsoever. Sorry, I don't have more for you there, but I am not plugged into that world at all. So yeah, but thanks for joining in. If you have any other questions, let me know. Dusty Howlett, how much is the monthly subscription for Discord? And that is $97 per month. And compare that to the price for the one-on-one consulting, and it's a ridiculous value. Honestly, we spend 3 hours doing members only live question and answers per month. We do it bi-weekly. So far we haven't had anybody in the group that hasn't had time to get their question answered. And we are passionate about this work. So whether it's in a one-on-one consult or the Inner Circle live, if somebody's got a question and we hit the hour-and-a-half mark, we don't go, oh, sorry guys, time to pay up, see you later. Like, we're passionate about getting this information out there and helping people see results. So we're not the type to just cut somebody off, and we make sure people's questions get answered and that people are confident and competent in what they're doing. So I highly recommend the Inner Circle group, and as time goes on, it's going to get more and more valuable. Just the forum that we have there, people are going to be able to ask questions. We did just start it, so it's still in the process of building up steam, but yeah, it's a great value. It took us a while to come up with the idea for it, but all things have their own season, and now that it is set up and it's available, it's a great value for anybody who maybe doesn't want to pay for our executive tier package, but still wants to be able to get some questions answered live. And the community aspect is just great, honestly. Can you get on a zero file list? Mark Machuda, by the way, thanks for tuning in. Can you get on the zero file list with your strategy? This has come up a couple times recently, and as far as I'm aware, I don't know that there is such a thing as a zero file list. And if there is, I mean, if you're referring to like the approved registry of tax exempt organizations, if that's what you're talking about, perhaps you could, but we're not even stepping into that realm at all. So we tell people a lot who are doing something equivalent to a 501c3 organization, that if you're going to run a nonprofit organization, then you may want to go through those extra steps of getting the tax exempt status and filing all the quarterly paperwork and saving all your receipts and all of that. If your people, your target demographic will only donate to an approved entity. What we're doing is outside of the whole realm of their jurisdiction to begin with. So we don't get their stamp of approval that says, oh, you're a tax exempt organization. The best that we've seen so far is Javier grilled the IRS essentially and got them to send a form that said, because you are 508c1a, we don't issue you a proof of tax exempt status. And that, serves as quote unquote proof from time to time. I was told common law trusts are not recognized federally. And, it depends on who you talk to. But if they are not using one of these, I don't really know what to tell people in that situation. I'm doing it, I've been doing it in a circle of people who have been using these exact same type of trust for over a decade, sometimes 30 years. We know of other businesses that are out there doing, natural law trusts that have been in business for 30 years uninterrupted. So, if you're going to read, like, the IRS may have a statement out there somewhere that says, oh, common law trusts don't exist because every state has a statute pertaining to trusts now. That doesn't change the nature of a private contract or, Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution that protects your private right to contract. There's this is where we get into that dance of disbelief and fear, and stepping outside of that into we don't have the luxury of a rubber stamp pat on the back approval from the state to do what we're doing, and we're never going to have that. This entire route has been very carefully and intentionally routed out from our education and knowledge, so that we end up in the situation where even when it's right in front of you, it's completely hands off because it's just seems spooky or something. Wesley Snipes do wrong with his common law trust. I have no idea what Wesley Snipes did. It wouldn't surprise me if he tried some things, and when you're dealing with the world in Hollywood, you're rubbing shoulders with some pretty intense people. And it wouldn't surprise me if there was ulterior reasons for all of that transpiring. All I can say is that we are showing proof that we're doing what we're doing. There's been several cases now where somebody who has a common law trust at the same bank as their personal checking account gets a determination letter. They're going to get some of their assets seized, and they seize everything in the checking account. There's even one instance where it was thousands and thousands of dollars that they wanted, and they went after this person. He had the trust and the personal account at the same bank, and he had like $10 just sitting in his personal bank account, and everything in his trust account. And he woke up the next day and the checking account was empty. Nothing was touched in the trust account. So, it's not like there's been a lack of a motive to try to penetrate these trusts from the outside on the IRS's behalf. They just don't have the legal power to do this. And, if you think about it on a large scale, super powerful people are using these trusts, and they are. The legal precedents have to be protected in order to protect their wealth. If they all of a sudden say, oh, common law trusts, those don't exist anymore, we now can just treat those as if they're just a holding company or whatever. All of a sudden you're going to see, untold billions of dollars being put at risk because of that. We have a question on YouTube. I've been through all the materials, but I still have quite a bit of confusion. For example, I live in Minnesota. Are there advantages to getting a bank account in Florida or elsewhere? So this would be one of the cases where, if you're trying to get corporate credit, that would be one case where, Delaware or Florida are both, off the top of my head, really advantageous states where you can register with the Secretary of State, and that way you're publicly recognized and you can get corporate credit for your trust. In North Carolina, for example, where I am, you can't register with the Secretary of State, and that's one of the necessary steps in order for you to get corporate credit. So yes, there is an advantage to doing that from Florida, but if you're just if you're doing anything but getting corporate credit, if that's one of your long-term goals, any state that you're in is just fine. And yeah, don't hesitate to send us an email. I mean, that's lifetime email support that you have, and if you're going through the material and you got questions, don't hesitate. There is kind of a limit here on these public Q&As where we will engage and answer questions specific to your situation, obviously, because it just doesn't pertain to anybody but you. But yeah, I mean, I personally think that the inner circle is an insane value at this point. As I said, there's not like a ton of people in there at this moment, so those inner circle live Q&As are pretty intimate, and people get a lot of value out of that. And I know that Tara asked what day of the week. Those are every other Monday at 7:30 p.m. So we do them back and forth. So this coming Monday, we'll do an inner circle, and then the week after that, we'll do another live for the public, and back and forth, and so on and so forth. Jathan, I was just in Greensboro. Nice. I think that's a little bit east of here. I'm out in the mountains in the western side of the state, so absolutely love it. I was I'm from North Dakota originally, so it's real flat and cold and brutal. So this area has just the Appalachian Mountains are so magical. Just the well water tastes just divine. Everything about it, I love it, and so real happy to be here. North Carolina's been good to me so far. All right. Well, if anybody has any other questions, I'm here for this. 24/7 asks, which bank recognize support these irrevocable trusts? That's a good question. Really, there's really no good way to answer that, because you're going to find at the same bank, like let's say Wells Fargo, in your city, there may be 3 Wells Fargo branches. And you go to one and they say, oh, no, we can't open this trust. And then you go to just another branch on the other side of the same city and they say, oh, yeah, come right in. There's really no rhyme or reason to which ones will or won't. I would just say like a small majority of banks, as long as they're national banks, will work with you and open up these accounts. And, there's an infinite number of reasons they can gatekeep you and decline you from being able to do this. We've seen all sorts of really weird glitches that local banks just kind of glitch out on people when they come in to create their accounts. And there's been other ones where it's just, hey, come on in, real personable, friendly, no issue whatsoever. Let's see here. Ready, steady, go, 1776. Are you going to create more than just your 4 podcasts that are out? Yes, we are. It's been we've been doing a lot in the background, and getting the time to sit down and just do that. I don't really have an excuse for it. I mean, we should. We definitely plan to, and we want to. We've gotten a lot of really good feedback about that, and so yes, there will be more. We'll try to crank out another one relatively soon here. I can feel it. It's time. And yeah, Jathan, the inner circle is just our for members, people that are currently enrolled in the online course or one-on-one clients. They can get access to our Discord server where we go live and we have a student forum, and yeah, it's a really great value, and it's a really great option for people that, how we do this is we have tiers, right? So there's just course access, which, gives you as many trusts as you want. You can create as many as you want, but that has that's all built into the course. So everybody gets course access. And then on top of that, we start adding in other features like one-on-one consultations, whether it's, 2 or 3 or 4. And then on top of that, we have the inner circle membership. On top of that, we have estate planning, customized trust declarations, This is where people want to, they have a business established, they want to transform that into a trust, and they have a lot of moving pieces, and they're going to need really specific terms put into their trust in order to really hammer out the vision and the structure for their business, or for estate planning. Jimmy and Johnny want to set up their estate for their children, and they got 3 children, and one of them's getting into drugs, and they want to make sure that he can only access his money, this much money, if and when, why, so that's where things kind of escalate. That's the top end of our service tier. But so if you're just getting course access, that's really what the inner circle is for. It's to deliver value to those guys who are just getting course access, maybe can't quite, there's inevitably going to be questions arising about this stuff, and no matter how thorough we make the course, there's just people come at it from so many different angles. There's so many people come at it from different levels of understanding. They've learned a bunch of other stuff that they maybe need to unlearn. So the inner circle is just a huge value for people to be able to get on a call with us live and get their questions answered that way. Yes, Jathan, it is $97 a month. So if you're currently enrolled with us, yeah, send us an email and we can give you some more information about the inner circle package. Which banks, credit unions do you prefer to do business with? Really, I don't have a preference. Locally, there's in the East Coast here, there's a branch that I use. Others use Wells Fargo, others use Chase, others use Bank of America. It's really just whatever is convenient, like what's close to you, who offers the best services, for your business. Essentially, you go around and kind of shop around and figure out what works best for you, what's convenient, who's got the coolest, debit cards, lowest minimum balances. Just whatever works best for you is going to be the best option. Personally, I think they're all the same, really, fundamentally. As long as the front desk people are nice, and that's the most important thing for me. Ready, steady, go. Is there a benefit to operating more than one trust? Is there advantages on having 2+ versus just one? That's a good question. And honestly, for most people, one trust is probably going to be just fine. You can do business, make investments, all with the same trust, and do your estate planning all with one trust. And if your situation is relatively simple, there's really no downside to doing that. Now, if you're involved with a lot of third parties, you've got a lot of moving pieces, the business that you engage in is kind of risky, or, somebody could cut their hand off, whatever. At that point, what we typically recommend for people that have, a good deal going on is that they have one trust just for investment, one trust just for doing business, and one trust just for their private kind of, storing assets for long-term family estate planning trust. And that way, anything that happens in one trust cannot affect any of the others, and everything is isolated and protected that way. So, Jathan, interested how you got into this? Yeah, so I got into it by being exposed to Daniel. He was one of the first people that I met when I moved down here to North Carolina, and he was running his massage business, his wellness center in the middle of downtown Asheville. He was running it through his trust, and he was really passionate about it. And then I just took note of what he was doing. Eventually, I started learning a little bit more. He directed me to some learning resources like Weiss's Concise Trustee Handbook. And there was another business out there that was doing similar to what we're doing. And I paid them for a trust and opened it up and didn't look back. I started doing my concrete foundation work through my trust. And then when Javier and Daniel decided to start doing Frontier Capital on their own, I was very vocal, and I started soaking this stuff up like immediately and intensely. So I was very vocal about everything I was learning on social media, and Javier saw that and asked me to come on board with them, and the rest is history, essentially. So I've been doing this full time for a little over a year now, and it's been amazing. rather than, breaking my back doing concrete foundation work, I do a lot of the social media work for Frontier and, our newsletters and other things like that. I do the consults as well. So it's been a really really great turn of events in my life, just a really beautiful change. So and that's kind of that I tell people about this a lot, that when you start operating a trust, like it's more than just saving 30% of your income not going to federal income taxes. It's like this I don't want to get too woo woo, but it's like a karmic bond that gets broken where your whole life you've been funneled into this system where you're just using your legal person because that's what I do. Everyone does it. I just do it. And then you get your paycheck and you're like, oh, I was supposed to get paid $1,200, but I'm taking home $750. Like, what is going on here? And then all of a sudden, like, you create your trust. Your pen hand creates that document. You create that entity of your own volition, and then you create an independent contractor contract to write up terms. How do you want to interact with this client that used to be your employer? All of a sudden, like, you are in control of your own destiny. It's like, rather than being blown by the winds like in a sailboat, you get like a power boat. You're now controlling which way you want to go. And that when I did that, it was actually really amazing, because when I wrote up my contract, I rather than just making an additional 30% each week, I decided to schedule myself only 4 days a week so that I would have a 3-day weekend every week, which was just huge for me. I was exhausted all the time. I never had enough time to do anything. And that started that chain of events where I was able to start doing more on social media, talking about, my experience with these trusts. And then, one thing led to another, so that happens in a unique way for every person who gets into this. And it's about more than just money. It's like a sense that you are actually in control, and you get to pick and choose how and when you're going to interact with the state. Yeah, you can find the podcast by going to our link tree. If crypto is already on a cold wallet, is there any way to have it included inside of a trust? I think I know the answer, but curious. Yeah, so you can designate or grant the property into the trust by making a record of it, essentially, and that record, it's called a Schedule A list of assets, and you grant them in there by describing the property and granting it into it that way. And of course, the contract is only as good as the eyes that are looking at it, right? So you can grant all of your property into a trust, but if you pass away suddenly and nobody knows where that trust document is, they're just going to walk into your apartment or your house, find a dead body, and do with your property what they always do. It's really important to think about these things long term. If you grant assets that don't have a public record, like a vehicle or a house or anything with a title or a deed, then you'll need to have somebody that's going to execute your trust for you should anything happen or you're incapacitated. You'll have to know about that so that they can do that, because it's not implied. Who are Daniel and Javier? They are my cohorts. They are the other founders. Javier started Frontier Capital Trust, and then Daniel and I came on board to complete the trifecta. You'll find them. Dang it. Sorry, guys. I just backed out of the Instagram live there on my phone. So I was a little bit behind on the questions. If I don't see your questions or answer them, it's because they have disappeared into the ether. I think we covered this on another live. Declarations. A religious trust gets dicey unless it's 100% sincere. Yeah, so in my own case, I have a fellowship that I do work with, and also a couple of other charitable things that I do in my community. And so I structured my trust through that, because it's legitimately, it's like, I live my life for God. I don't own anything personally. I don't want to own anything personally. I'm not interested in trinkets and mansions and all that stuff. So because of that, I get to fully flex my religious freedoms muscle through utilizing these trust structures. And anyone can, and you don't have to be Christian per se. Even though I am a Christian, I support everyone's right to figure out what they believe for themselves. Mostly because I believe there's a self-correcting nature to things that, if a fool persists in his folly, he will become wise. So I support everybody fully utilizing their religious freedoms, as long as you are legitimately about that life, as long as you're being sincere and not just, trying to do some loophole thing. Because if you're doing the loophole thing, the sneaky, like, ooh, I'm going to get one over on them, somebody's going to ask you a question someday. And because you're not living it, you're going to fold. You're going to fold like a blanket, and where I'm at and the way that I do it, like, it doesn't matter who's grilling me. I'm firm in my convictions and I know where I stand. So I recommend everybody kind of take that approach. Figure out what you believe and just really, really go for it. Ready, Steady, Go says, if your house isn't paid off, is the only way to put a house in a trust to use a quitclaim deed? Yes, that is typically the route that people will go, and we have helped people go through that process. Really, the only thing that you need to look out for there is sometimes in the lending agreement there is what is called a due on sale clause, where moving the trust into the name of the trust is going to be treated as if you had sold the property or change the ownership of it, and that would cause them to call in the rest of the balance of the debt. That can be avoided by getting their consent prior to doing the action. We always recommend doing that just so that you don't end up with a surprise $200,000 debt on your hands. But yeah, it would just be a matter of looking over your lending agreement, getting a hold of the lender and asking them, say, hey, I've got an irrevocable trust, I'm doing estate planning. The occupancy isn't going to change. It's just me doing this for my long-term planning. And most likely they will have no problem with it. It's a very common thing to do. And yes, yeah. So, I mean, if the house is in the trust would engage in the sale. The main thing that you would want to consider on your long-term kind of approach to things is, if the house is in the trust and all the equity that you've put into that loan is in the trust, it's no longer on your personal balance sheet. So, same thing as if you're going to make all your money through a trust. Oh yeah, great, I'm not paying any taxes, but you're also, according to outside third parties, you're making no money. You personally have no money. So it's a balance back and forth that each person has to kind of strike for themselves, because if you go all in and you're just the tax maverick who's living in the private realm completely, you're giving up that the benefits that come along with paying taxes, which is provable income. They want to see 3 years of tax returns, or if you own a couple of vehicles in a home and you put them in the trust, you can't get lending against that, or you can't use them as collateral because they're not yours, legally and literally. How old is the company? We started in 2020, so we are fairly new, but both Daniel and Javier have several years of experience. They worked with another business that was doing something similar to this, but it was just not a good fit, you could say. And so the education, you can find other people out there that are doing similar things to this. You're going to find a lot of like blank web pages that look like they were built in like 2001, and giving all sorts of questionable information, and pay here $5,000 and they give you some paperwork and you don't see a name, you don't see a face. You certainly don't get a course to teach you how to use the information. And so we went into business because we saw the market was in desperate need of actual education and consulting. There were other people out there doing consulting per se, but let's just say that you're not going to find a better business to interact with if you're trying to actually learn and be competent with this. There's plenty of businesses out there that are selling magic paperwork that may work. I mean, a private trust is a private trust, and if it's irrevocable, you may get by for the most part. But we've seen other people long term getting their account shut down because some of the verbiage in their trust was a little too sovereignty oriented, you could say. And it works fine for a couple of years, and then they do an internal audit of their paperwork. They find the record of your declaration of trust, and they say, oh, what's all this sovereignty language? We don't like that. And that has happened on a couple of occasions. So we have really put in a lot of hours to figure out, what is the underlying principles of law to make this thing really concrete and bulletproof, to where we don't have to rely on, sovereignty mythology essentially in order to get the same power and benefits that are afforded to, the most powerful sovereignty trust out there. "24/7, this isn't exactly on topic, but thoughts on depoliticizing big banking or at least defending employment rights? Hope that kind of makes sense. Depoliticizing big banking or at least defending employment rights. Hope that kind of makes sense. Maybe if you could break that up into two different points. I'm not sure how depoliticizing big banking and employment rights are intertwined here. I'm not exactly sure where you're going with that 24/7. You could shed some light on it. I'd gladly comment on it. The Bible says that people perish for lack of knowledge. We must be willing to gain knowledge, never stop learning. Of course. And that goes for myself as well. I consider myself a student in all important regards. I was very aware of, the upside down nature of the worldly system, you could say, the Babylonian system. But as far as legal, actually engaging with the legal system in any sort of meaningful way, it always seemed like this impenetrable behemoth that was just I knew it was corrupt. I knew legalese was destroying people on a certain level, but how to actually interface with it, I had no idea. I always wanted to serve God. I always wanted to, help people, but starting a 501c3, it all just it was overwhelming immediately. So when I started learning about what a private trust is and what it's capable of, my antenna popped up and buzzed immediately. It was this is it. This is how you're gonna interface with this legal system. This is your vessel to cross this tumultuous water of legalese and confusion and endless statutory nonsense. It was the golden path opened up in front of me, and I was like, this is it. And that's when I decided to start learning about all this stuff, is when I came across the trust work. And so I'm not the most learned of the three of us regarding how to use these trusts and the law behind it, but I am extremely passionate about the learning behind this stuff. And the best way for me to learn is to actually do it, and that's exactly what I've done. So I consider myself a student of life for sure. Are you three trying to grow Frontier into a larger company? And if so, what would your next employees, partners look like? Very steady and careful growth. We're not in this to make buku bucks and, turn Frontier Capital Trust into some, conglomerate, corporate behemoth. I think the best way for us to grow is going to be through affiliates. We have an alumni program where people can earn a very sizable commission, almost what we make as partners. And by going through that route, we teach people, we take them under our wing, we give them, education about how to in order to become an alumni, you have to pass a test essentially, so that we know that you aren't going out there making baseless claims. You're not telling everybody just a bunch of nonsense and a bunch of, what's the word I'm looking for, sensational information to get them to buy in with us. We really want people to be informed and understand what's going on when they get into this stuff. So I think people that go through the affiliate side of things, and then they go through the alumni program, they are inevitably going to become assets that are extremely invaluable to us. Because as I said at the beginning of this live, personal one-on-one direct testimony is by far the most powerful thing to give people the confidence to step over the threshold. I can't say with any certainty that if I hadn't met Daniel, who was actively engaged in business with his trust, if say I came across this live, if I would have ever had the courage to step over the threshold. Maybe I would have. I got to give myself the benefit of the doubt on some level. And besides, it's pointless to pontificate or postulate. So the direct testimony, personal testimony, is by far the most important thing. So over time, I think enough people get passionate about sharing this information and bringing in referrals. They're inevitably going to become our salespeople. That's just how it's going to be. We haven't done any advertising to date, not once. Everything that we have done so far has been through organic outreach, through our social media, and sending emails. So we are looking into getting some internal systems built and maybe doing a little bit of very carefully dialed in and controlled advertising in the near future. But to date, we have not done any advertising at all. So we've been really blessed to just, God guides the right people to us at the right time for them. And it's been really, really wonderful. Jathan, I was building concrete foundations for 8 years prior to getting into this work. Think you'll need a female on the team in the future. Just saying. Well, maybe we'll see. If you, yeah, we'll see about that. We won't say no just because you're a woman. That's for sure. I think the value and the becoming an asset is self-evident. So we'll see what happens. As of right now, we're not actively looking for anyone. But as I said, the affiliates and the alumni are, basically a partnership position with us as far as the income that you can make by doing it. Banks, unfortunately, have taken on woke ideology at the expense of employees, customer, and the country, but you can ignore us on that point since it's not entirely on discussion. Yeah, there's a reel I shared a little while ago of that guy talking about how you can use a trust in your community as a bank, essentially. If you have a housing development with, say 25 families, you guys could create a mutual trust that you use together that you all have control over. That is there exclusively to build wealth and have a large container of money there so that you guys can lend against that. And that is completely doable, completely possible. 25 people all throwing money in and having it carefully managed and grown can grow some serious money. And as long as everybody's not taking loans all at the same time, very quickly, you could see some serious wealth building up that way. And I think that is the future. The system and the powers that exist out there in the corporate world, they exist because they fill a vacuum that's been created by our taking hands off of our own responsibility, essentially. At the end of the day, I always like to turn the troubles and the problems of the world and internalize them. How have I created this problem? How have I contributed? Where is my ignorance contributing to this issue? And it doesn't take long to find your contribution to the problem. If you don't want Walmart and Amazon, then how many conveniences are you willing to forego? And I'm guilty as everybody else is. Every once in a while, yeah, there's some things on Amazon that you would not be able to find locally, or you convince yourself that you need it. And at the end of the day, everything exists because it fills a vacuum. It has a purpose. And so when it comes to like these giant corporations pushing this stuff down our throat, we need to get our kids out of public school, and we need to start on a small local scale. We need to start replacing these corporate entities with our own homegrown organic small business versions of those services, and then really getting serious about supporting that and keeping it. Jathan, we do this every other Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Mark Machuda, how can I be an affiliate? Well, you start off by working with us. Anyone can refer people to us, but honestly, if you don't know for yourself how what we do works, or if it works, I don't think that you would want to refer people to us. So anyone can refer people to us, but as far as getting commissions, being an affiliate, becoming an alumni, you have to be working with us already. And then we have pre-prescribed channels that people can go through for that. Ready, steady, go. Thank you for your responses. Very impressed with you and Frontier Capital Trust. Thank you very much. Happy to be an affiliate. People are coming to me all the time, and it's wonderful to have solutions to share with them. Yeah, you've been a really wonderful client so far. It's been, the feedback that we've gotten from you is really, really awesome, and some of the really nice things that you said to us via email were very endearing and meant a lot to us, because of the private nature of the work that we're doing. A lot of people are kind of, they don't want to give a testimonial with their face in a video. In most cases, there have been a couple of people who have, but testimonials are a really big deal, and unfortunately we haven't gotten a lot of those so far. So anybody that feels passionate about helping us out, wink wink, giving us a testimonial is a really powerful and awesome gift that you can give us. So just something to keep in mind. Looks like we were at 56 minutes according to my Restream studio. So I believe, unless something has changed with Instagram, at 60 minutes, this will automatically get cut off. So any final questions that people have, I'd gladly answer them. Otherwise, I'll be mid-sentence some point in the next 3.5 minutes, and I'll just get cut off. At least on Instagram, I'll have to manually shut it down on the other platforms. But thankfully, there's not a heck of a lot going on in the other platforms. So I was going to ask you all if you had any testimonials. Yeah, you can go through. Honestly, Jathan, we post a lot of really informative content on our Instagram page. Regarding trust stuff, there's really only so much self-flatulating, advertising type material that we could post, and we really don't do that. So all of the reels that we post, all of the graphics that we post, almost everything that we post in general is all really informative. So when you're bored, if this is kind of piquing your interest, go ahead and just watch our reels. They're short, they're entertaining, they're informative, and they will answer a lot of your questions, I think. And it'll be a good place for you to kind of brush up on your knowledge. And that'll be a great place for you to start. And both of the video testimonials that we have and the written testimonial that we have is on our Instagram page. What's your favorite place you've been to? I'm not a terribly well-traveled person. I've never left the country. I tried to go to Canada once, but I couldn't. I was working with a rough outfit. I was going to go do some training up in the tundra, and they said no. So I've been to California. That was all right. California is beautiful. Been to some of the nice places on the East Coast here in South Carolina. I've been to Florida. Honestly, I hate to be boring, but this part of North Carolina is honestly one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen or known. It's, you can find just mountain spring water just everywhere, waterfalls everywhere, thick forest and mountains just everywhere. It's unbelievably gorgeous and just invigorating to be here. There's a place called Pretty Chapel. It's right on the border of, or Pretty Place Chapel. It's right on the border of South Carolina and North Carolina as you come down the mountains. And it is this, it's like a YMCA place. And there's a view from this like little chapel. It's like an outdoor chapel, and the view looking through the building, the little outhouse, outdoor chapel is insane. Absolutely insane. Google Pretty Place Chapel, and the view there, it will not disappoint. Catching a sunrise there is something you won't forget. All right, well, we've got about 20 seconds left. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I appreciate all of the feedback that we've had. It's really great to connect with you guys. sign up for our email stuff, guys. Our social media is getting throttled so hard that it's like it's depressing to even try to post stuff to know that 10% of our audience is going to see it. So yeah, get on our email list, go to the first two things in our link tree, and follow any of those links through, put in your email, and that'll make sure that you're connected with us should we get throttled for good. So thank you everybody for tuning in. I do believe I'm going to end the stream here. Yeah, I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to be doing this work. I feel continuously honored and humbled to be in this position. Grateful for the guys that I work with, and yeah, let's make some magic happen and build the future, guys.